So it's not necessarily always things that have to do with the message you're trying to share, or even your niche. It's just visually, audibly, your background's changing, like you mentioned. I mean, you can increase the engagement, like the engagement rate of your videos on TikTok, just by changing your background by up to 38%, just by having one background switch.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Win the Hour, Win the Day. And I am your host, Chris Ward. And today, boy, oh boy, we've got some fun in the house. We've got Dan Perichino, and I'm telling you, here's the deal. Well, first, let me welcome you to the show, Dan. Welcome to the show.
Oh my gosh, thanks so much, Chris. It's great to be here. It's a pleasure.
Okay.
Thanks.
I will tell you, the first time I saw your first video, it stopped the scroll. And I'm going to try to describe what you do, but you know what you're going to do is enlighten us why I felt the way I did with your expertise. And we'll dive into that in a minute. So it's just so clear, so refreshing, so tight, so interesting, and there's such humor to it. And you're talking to us about creating video and about creating content. I know your background is a video editor, and as you had said to me, it really taught you a lot because you'd have to take so much fluff out of other people's videos. So I can see now why yours are so tight and again, interesting and funny. And boy, oh boy, I could talk all day. We invited you on the show so I could tell you how good you are.
Thank you so much.
But one of the things too, I know I have high energy, and it took me a lot of years to sort of lean into that and just be okay with it. Cause I thought on a bad day, it came off juvenile or childlike. And so, there's all this stuff out there like talk slower and be grounded. And I know you have to be articulate, but yours are really fast paced. And I just find them so interesting. So it also lends itself. And I found it very inspiring to me, where it's like, yeah, damn it, just do it the way you want to do it. And as I usually tell people, I don't talk quickly, you listen slowly. Right.
I love that.
So Dan, let's walk through this a little bit and tell me, maybe give us some pointers on what is it that makes your video so refreshing and so interesting? And what are some of the mistakes that we're making on our videos?
Oh man, that is a loaded question. We could probably have an 8-hour podcast and do part 2 tomorrow. But it's really about taking a step back and kind of understanding where my background is and why. I kind of look at the short form video editing process, the shooting process, the content creation process in general, and where it all starts. So I came from essentially coaching brand owners and business owners and influencers, nano celebrities, things of that nature, all the way down to financial advisors from behind the camera. I worked for a studio where we created content, short YouTube web series, or maybe it was some promotional videos that are for their website, things like that. So I got very used to having all different types of people come into the studio every single day for years and years, and you really see the patterns that everyone kind of follows when it comes to speech, when it comes to body language, when it comes to maybe they're a little anxious on camera. All these little nuances that build up so much of the important aspect of what really needs to go into a video, that I just got used to it and became second nature. So, fast forward 10 years till now, I started, since, like I said, I used to do that for other people and other professionals from behind the camera. Why not do it for myself? So started doing content for myself, and I had the cheat codes. I had everything already in my head. Don't start sentences with "so." Don't say "hey guys," or "hey, you guys should watch this video." It should always be one-to-one, right? Like if you're doing like an educational video or something like that, it's not "hey guys," it's you. That's something I always say in videos. Making sure you're looking at the camera, making sure you're not smiling too much. I know you said a point here about talking too fast, and that's an interesting point you bring up, because I was always taught that experts growing up, they talk slow, and snake oil salesmen talk quickly, and they're trying to get by you with some fast tricks. Well, that was all before short form video and TikTok and YouTube Shorts and all these tiny little goldfish attentiveness, attentive oriented platforms have come out, right? People don't want to hear you talk slow anymore. They'll go to YouTube for that. So if you want to come off on TikTok, if you're making educational content, if you want to come off as knowing what you're talking about, sometimes it doesn't always make sense. Talk a little bit faster. But just like I said in a recent video, if you're talking too fast, it's going to have the opposite effect. Then you're going to come off as a snake oil salesman. You know what I mean? So as long as you're confident with a little bit of speed, that's kind of the sweet spot, if you ask me.
It is interesting because I do talk slower now than I used to. But I literally took 2 public speaking courses to learn how to speak slower. And my husband said I should have got my money back on both of them because it's like it did not slow down at all, right?
Yeah,
But I think too, you brought up some really great reminders. Look at the camera and all these other, and you know, don't start off with just utterances of so and all that stuff. But you guys have got to go over to TikTok, check him out because it's crazy. It's like crazy lightning. It's like lightning in a bottle. It's lightning good. And I think
that's
it's
great.
so much more than that because you'll do things that, I mean, I get the understanding and the power of jump cuts. And if you guys don't know what that is, you know, who might explain that? Why don't you tell them what a jump cut is? And then I'm going to expand on that, Dan.
Sure. So yeah, I'd be happy to. So jump cuts are essentially anytime you see, could be short form content, could be a YouTube video, really any type of medium where there's video. If there's a hard cut and, you know, for example, it's me and then it's me again talking and we just removed that blank space, maybe I'm taking a breath, that's a jump cut. Sometimes it crops in a little bit to give it the aspect like almost of an instant zoom in, right? But it's still the same camera. So jump cuts are just a really good way to retain your viewers throughout the duration of your video.
And as the creator, I will tell you guys what the jump cut does is mean that I could do a video and say, here's the top 3 things you need to know about outsourcing, cut. And then I could hit record again and say, number 1 is you can totally afford it, cut, and just stop. So then you don't have to worry about big long sentences or you fumble a word, you got to the end of the video. You can just do 1 sentence at a time. And then when they're put together, it looks like a hopping type video, like because you're cutting from one thing to the next. So that's the beauty of, you know, then your production value, or your creation value, creation goes up, your content creation goes up because you don't have to worry about all the mistakes you make. Now, what's super interesting about you, Dan, is like you just mix it up like crazy and it's so dynamic because you'll be like saying, here's 3 mistakes you're making, or you don't even do that. Please, I shouldn't put words in your mouth. I know you cut right to it. You'll say, why don't I tell you what you'll say? You tell me what you say. You'll say something like the number 1 mistake or whatever people are making in video. And then the next thing, you're in another room petting a cat. But the language, the visual leap is so big. And then your language is so tight. So we might get some really solid content out of you in like, I don't know, 14 seconds. Like it seems crazy. So now, of course, my pet peeve is when people say to me, oh, my business is different. But do you get a little bit of a free pass because you're giving super crazy tight technical tips? So like it's easier for you to make even shorter videos than the rest of us. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So I guess I should ask for a little bit of clarification. What exactly do you mean by a shortcut? Or I'm trying to understand that point correctly so I can answer you right.
I don't even know what I asked you. I'm just so wowed by your videos. What the heck? What are you?
That's totally cool. I love that. Yeah, so I guess I can kind of walk you through the process as to what I do and you know, when it comes to recording those videos and why I do those things. I know you mentioned the cat. Some of the things are so simple, you know, after you hear them, you're gonna be like, oh, of course, like why else would that, you know? If you have a cat in the beginning of a video, the internet is obsessed with cats. Everyone on the internet loves cats. They're gonna probably stop on a cat, right? So it's like zero thinking. That's no thinking involved type of hook, right? There's other types of hooks where you have to think so much, right? Like maybe you have to your greens product. You're selling like a greens, you know, like a drink mix, and you have to come up with a super powerful, super relatable hook and you don't know the audience that well. And like, you really have to research and it's a science and it's a psychology. So when you mix all of those things together, it just, it gives you good practice, like I said, from just working with all of those clients over the years. So I do things that are constantly causing pattern interrupts. I don't want people to get bored in my videos. So if one tiny little thing changes, they're gonna stay at least another second, at least another 2 seconds. And if that's the case, it's gonna help the video. It's not gonna hurt it. You'll see, I don't even know where it is right now. I usually have it right on my desk, but I have this little poke ball, like a Pokemon ball. I don't even know where I got it. I've just always had it. And I'll start off a lot of my videos because it's relatable and it's, you know, my demographic is millennials for the most part, right? Millennials grew up with Pokemon. Get a lot of comments about it, get a lot of follows just because I have that in my hand. So it's not necessarily always things that have to do with the message you're trying to share or, you know, even your niche. It's just visually, audibly, your background's changing, like you mentioned. I mean, you can increase the engagement, like the engagement rate of your videos on TikTok just by changing your background by up to 38%, just by having one background switch.
You know what? I do that, but here's what I think where you take it and put it on steroids. So I get the jump cut, and then lots of times I'll switch rooms, but they're still similar rooms. They're both rooms are painted white, and I'm coming from a different angle. And I think, look at me, I'm all that in a bag of chips, right? But what I find with you is, and even like I'll see other people where they go to pick up a glass and they're about to have a drink and there's a pattern interrupt and you watch the video and then they jump cut. Okay, that's great. But I find what I find with yours, if as you're talking now, I'm trying to figure it out, is I almost think that technically once upon a time, you would deem these as bad shots because you're coming from a completely different angle, or lack of a better word, wrong angle than from the one before. Like one, you were kind of half reaching for a glass, but while you were talking, you never did grab the glass and it wasn't in the next shot. But I think what happens psychologically is I start to think that I'm in the room with you and I'm doing like a 360 because they're not, I jumped and think, okay, I'm learning from Dan, I'll do different rooms, but it's still me facing the camera, the same angle, slightly different rooms. So there's a mini pattern interrupt, but you give me the sense that we could be walking around your place, chit-chatting, and I'm not paying attention. Kind of, I looked up and you were in another room and you weren't listening to me, kind of deal.
Man, you explained that perfectly. Yeah, you can never really let them know where you're going. Never let them know your next move. Ironically enough, that was a TikTok trend a couple months ago. But like you really can't. I've set up a pretty specific formula when it comes to nurture content specifically made to nurture and get, obviously get new followers as well. These are for my longer form videos, still short form, right? Like over a minute 30 seconds. And I'd love to just share that with you. It's
go ahead. We're
simple.
Here to learn from you, the master. Go right ahead.
Yeah, and but before I get into that, when it comes to all of the pattern interrupts, like the glass of water, the this, the that, we spoke about this a couple, probably 10 minutes ago now, where we were talking about how you take a bunch of cuts or you take a bunch of takes of your video until you get it right. That's pretty much what I do. And the natural byproduct of adding all of these clips together and sequencing them brings this natural wonder of what's coming next, because I don't know if the first take on this clip is going to match with a third take on this clip. So it adds that like guessing game, right? So that's kind of like a fun way that I like to put my videos together in a technical sense. I don't sit there for an hour and do takes over and over. I'll probably do like 2 or 3 per line, and then I'll move on to the next. So this is typically the formula that I'll use.
Okay.
You're going to hear this a lot. Obviously, when it comes to content, you want a really strong hook in the beginning.
Okay.
A lot of people say it's the first 3 to 5 seconds, depending on what platform you're on. Let's just kind of stick with just TikTok or anything short form for now, shorts, reels.
Yeah.
I say it's more like 0.2 to 2 seconds. Like, I don't think we should be allowed 3 seconds. I think that is a travesty. I don't think people don't want to sit and wait to hear what's going to happen in 3 seconds. Think of it like when you're clicking a website and the website doesn't load. Like, you're not going to wait 3 seconds. It's 2022. No. You're out of there. So I'm a lot heavier on the aggression of the hook. I like to include not only the audio and text hook. So here are 3 ways that you can make $5,000 with UGC this month, or something like that, right? So I'll take that. This having one of my ADD moments where I have to remember where I was. I have that hook. I put the text above, just match what I say, which we'll talk about captions in a minute here.
Yeah.
And then from there,
that's okay.
Oh, yeah, thank you. And then we have the visual hook on top of that. So that's things like whether it's a cat or whether it's a Breaking Bad, Walter White.
So let me jump in here for a second, because I think this is really important, right? And Dan said before we started, I have ADHD, I'm all over the place. And I'm like, don't worry, I'll help you. But not only will I help you, I will throw random questions at you. So if you forgot one question, I'll give you another.
Let's go.
So what I think is really done particularly well too is there was a period where you talk about the hook. So I might say, or here's the 3 biggest mistakes you make when outsourcing, right? But I find that you even go tighter, faster, and you might jump in, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you might say, mistake number 1 when you're outsourcing is boom, boom. Like it's almost like in a movie where you jump in and now you're in the middle of the opening scene, you're in the middle of a fight scene. You have to figure out why we're here in this movie. So I find that you're right with the hook. We think we have a hook and it's usually a sentence, but you almost, and I'm sure technically this isn't correct, but you almost skip the hook and just start with the content, which makes it the hook.
Yeah, I mean, in a sense, absolutely. So
Right.
there's so many different ways you can approach that. So let me talk about how I wrap up the rest of that formula, and then I'll go
Okay.
back into I
Yep.
may need your help to remind me for obvious reasons that we
Okay.
just spoke about. But you know, when we get to that part, just kind of bring it back up again. But
Mhm.
so yeah, so after the hook, we have the essentially you just want to know what the angle is, so you come up with a relatable pain point. Whatever the video is about, you just want it to be relatable, right? It doesn't
Okay.
necessarily have to be like, I'm going to relate with this, you know, I relate with this, let's talk about it. It's just making sure it's a problem, right? And you can find that out in various ways, Googling or looking at other content on
Mhm.
TikTok, just seeing what those pain points are and you know, your typical way of marketing, right? So then you just kind of want to speak to it, you want to agitate it. And then I missed a point. Right before we start talking about the pain points and after the hook, in that spot right here, there's two things that I make sure happen in those videos that I make. One is a pattern interrupt.
Okay.
So, and then the other one is going to be just an authority statement or social proof statement.
Okay. Okay.
So, you know, say that I say the hook, and then it's time to talk about here we go again, social proof, authority statement. So coming into like the authority statement, I keep losing my spot. What did I just say? Hook?
Yeah. And
Hook.
coming into the authority statement.
Sorry, 1 second. I'm just going to refer to my notes here. All right, cool. Hook, pattern interrupt. Pattern interrupt could be something like, I think a couple of videos ago, I sat down and, you know, I gave the hook in the intro and I noticed it was like really hot in my office, because it is, it's always hot in my office. So out of nowhere, I was just like, it's too hot in here, but I left the camera rolling and I hit the camera. So it catches me standing up, hitting the camera and going somewhere else. So
Right.
just visually, that cues you to know that something different is coming up, right? So the pattern interrupt's always going to help with duration. And then immediately after that, or immediately before, it doesn't really matter. Hey, I'm Dan. You know, in the past 10 years, I've done so-and-so. Here's my credibility. I have a 200, we've generated $200 million in sales for our clients just this year, blah, blah, blah. Like something that, you know, lets your audience know that you know what you're talking about. Authority or
So,
social proof.
so even on TikTok now, I don't remember that in some of your really short ones. So is that you sprinkle it in sometimes, or depending on how much time you have?
Yeah, so that's more for kind of like those longer nurturing videos,
Oh,
the ones that are
gotcha.
over a
Gotcha.
minute and a half.
Okay.
Anything short and loopable, I tend to not put a lot of things. I'll always have a hook. Won't
Right.
always have a call to action. Won't have an authority statement. Like it's meant to just be digestible,
Right.
and you know, it's for different types of audiences in your network, right? So
Fabulous.
yeah, like same reason trends are trends. They're for a
Yeah.
different purpose, right? So pattern interrupt. Then you get into identifying the pain point, agitating that pain point.
Okay.
But like keep the humor. I always keep the humor along. If I have cats in the background or my golden doodle in the background or just something going on, maybe like I have the It's Corn video that went viral a couple of weeks ago, like playing on the TV, like always something new. And
Mm.
don't be afraid to use like Easter eggs too, because Easter eggs keep people looping the video. Sometimes I'll say, count the number of bananas you saw in this video and leave them in the comments below. You know, not my
Oh,
best video,
okay.
not my worst either, right? People like that interactivity too. And people will say
Okay.
like 13 bananas, and then I can start a whole thread, not even about the video. Okay, how many bananas
Okay.
did you find? You might have missed one here. Like, it's all about experimenting. There's no right and wrong, but you can try your best to follow the best practices. Just experiment.
Oh, I mean,
So
those are really good points too, because it sounds so silly, but even leaving the TV on, you're distracted by the TV. Like, oh, what's he watching? Right. Yeah.
and again, this is
That,
going against everything that we learned as
yes.
you know in media training. You don't want to have a TV in the background. Like, what's
Yeah. What's
going on?
wrong with you?
You don't want to have captions above your head. Like, what? Why is your face not in the upper third? Like, that doesn't like
Yeah. I remember
Not,
I really struggled with that. And you said that. And I was like, oh, everybody else is putting, I thought too, the text is below your face. And I was like, here's me. I'm thinking I'm all that, right? I'm like, oh, I don't know. Everything else he's doing is so good, but I think he's wrong on this one. Because I thought when I'm looking at the video, the text allows me, if it's below your face, allows me to see your face and then the text at the same time. And I asked you about that in the comments, and you said, think about it, Chris, when you're doing the scroll, the text comes up first and it's moving. So you're going to get attention there. I was like, all right, okay, let's try that. So you're right. That's the exact opposite of what everyone tells you.
but at the same time, I am wrong all the time. And I am right about the exact same things all the time. It's about your style, and it's about the way you approach and your psychology and your personality. What works for you? I put them above my head because, I just noticed that that was working way better for me, because I used to put captions down here. I used to do, in-app stickers and TikTok, and there's nothing wrong with that. But just for my style, it needed more. And I'm still experimenting. I just posted a video with me just typing on the computer with like a tweet screenshot.
I saw that one. Yeah. I like that one too.
Thanks. Yeah. And I mean, that was more so just because I didn't really have a ton of time last week. But at the same time, you just always got to be experimenting. And the biggest thing is like, I just made this mistake. Don't go like more than a week or two without posting content, because it's a little bit harder to keep those numbers up. I was, I get multiple thousands of views most videos, but I took a little break, and then coming back now, it's a little bit less. So it's definitely
well, that's the least of our
conscious of
worries. Most of us are consistently putting out crappy content, so I don't have to worry about the break. But what I will tell you is that I think is the bigger lesson that I want to keep driving home here is we get stuck in whatever the last thing is. Okay, this is the thing on TikTok. Let's do a 7-second video B-roll and then just have some text overlay on it, right? And yours playing the piano, which had nothing to do with anything. And then the tweet thing that came across from left to right was similar, but completely different. I was like, oh, so it just also really lends itself to don't get sucked into like high school with the cool kids or the people in grade
that.
12 are telling you what the Niners are doing. Oh, this is how you do it. So everything what I saw was yours it was like, it was so refreshing and interesting, which kind of brings it back to, we all try to fit in, but yet the people that are most successful stand out. So you were just doing things that I was like, I know there's science behind this. I know he's being purposeful, and all I can see is it's going in all different directions, but it's so interesting. So, and there's subtle things, like you said, leaving the TV on in the background while you're talking. I would have thought, oh my gosh, I'm professional. Shut the TV off. It should be a black screen. I shouldn't even have a TV on behind me or see the TV. But you're right. It's a visual cue, and you get distracted. And that's the name of the game, right?
Yeah, and there's a time and a place for everything, right? There's kind of 3 types of content you can do, at least as a brand on TikTok. There's going to be like native brand content. There's going to be repurposed content, and then there's going to be like creator content. The repurposed content, there is a time and a place for stuff that you take and you repurpose and put it on TikTok. But there is also a time and a place where you want to talk to the camera, and there's all of that is to say, like, it's about finding your sweet spot that you feel good about. I know this goes against everything Gary Vee says, but don't make content for anyone else but you. And once you've created it for you, and once you're happy with your content, that is the point that you're like, okay, I can start creating content for other people because I know how to do it while continuing to make myself happy doing it. At least in my experience, that's how I avoid burnout. I would already be burned out a million times over if I wasn't like passionate about what I talk about. That's kind of a good way to kind of wrap up that formula. So this is the very last point. This kind of puts a bow on that formula. So we have the hook, we have the pattern interrupt, and the statement of authority or social proof. Then we jump into the guts, right? That's when, okay, here's what I'm going to tell you, and then I'm going to tell you what I just told you. People like threes. So whether that be in lists, whether that be in just like the way you communicate with people, just keep it short, like you said before. After that, we're going to give them something for free, or we're going to ask them for the follow, or just ask them for something, right? Don't forget that follow button if you want to become a better creator. And also, as a thank you, in my profile description, there's a free top 69 hooks for download. Then I'm collecting emails, which I can continue to talk to the audience there. So it's awesome. It's pretty cool. Oh, and then obviously you hit them with a call to action at the end. So maybe that is the follow, maybe that is the free thing, or maybe it's go sign up on UGC videos. We're launching this week. We need creators, something like that. Doesn't have to be the same thing every time.
And so also we just have a couple minutes left, but I think props are something which I don't even know if you would call them props, because they're just pattern interrupts that you have in the room, and they're just so random and so interesting. And I would have thought they had to be on message, or I would have overthought it, but it's just, you could be standing there with a toilet brush in your hand and not address it.
Yeah, I had a vacuum cleaner on a chair once in the background. No one commented about it. Like, no one said a thing. I had a ton of comments on the video. No one said anything about the chair. I thought it was interesting. Yeah, the subtleties help not only with pattern interrupts and the duration of your viewers, but dude, it makes I use dude as a
generic. I'm with you.
Yeah.
Got it.
They feel like they're in this exclusive club when they find something that no one else sees, and they'll comment it and they'll feel cool about it. Did anyone else just notice that WCW 1999 Sting wrestling action figure? Like, did anyone else notice that? If no one else noticed that, like, dude, they feel cool and in the know, right? It gives an even more so connection. It's more personal, right? It's small numbers, but over time it rocks, right? Like, that's what your whole personality is based off of.
I did a video once, and I thought and it was really in the beginning, so I was really being over focused on delivering content and trying to be all professional. And I was painting a room in my house, so I had switched backgrounds, whatever. And somebody left a comment that the lamp in the background didn't have a shade. I'm like, okay.
Hey, that's engagement, right? It's helping.
I guess.
Right?
I was like, is that all you got out of it? But okay. Yeah. It is engagement. You're right.
There's right and wrong things, right? You don't want to have your fly open or something, use common sense. But at the same time, like, people want to relate with you. They want to know you as a human being and not as a talking head. It's TikTok. People want to just, relate. They just want to be like you. I'm looking at my little box of props. I can't turn my camera, but you've seen people with like those tiny microphones that you can get on Amazon, Funko Pops, and 90s action figures. I got a chest set up there. I have old cameras from the 30s, the Pokemon ball. I got a, sometimes just the stuff on the wall is good enough. You know what I mean?
But see, that's very interesting to me, because when you say props, I have them as well, but I thought they sort of had to drive home a point, right? So, I might hold up a jar of jelly beans talking about this color is your important work and it gets buried in all the other color of jelly beans, right? So I thought it was to drive home a point or had to be on message, but the prop is, now I see it as a whole different thing. And I think it's really not a prop, it's a pattern interrupt, which changes everything.
Yeah, and you know what? You could also do it the way you wanted to too. Like, at the end of the day, what I stress the most out of anything is, if you're comfortable in what you're using for the purpose that you're using it for, those jelly beans, if you want to use that as a way to drive home your message and you're confident about that, that's going to perform just as well as if I hold up a random glass of chocolate milk or something that has nothing to do with the video, because it's really just about how you present yourself. If you're confident and if you're excited about your content, everyone else is going to be confident about your content and excited about your content. And confident meaning it's going to help them, right?
Yeah, I think, and I appreciate your point, and I think you're right. However, I think what I've learned from you today is that it doesn't have to be that one lane. So I could use the jelly beans to drive home my point. However, then I have this other whole bag of tricks, and it sort of like blew the lid off it of like, hey, you could have fun, and it doesn't all have to be like a high school essay, here's your point, drive it home, here's your picture, So I think what's really interesting to me is like, anything's open to play. Anything, we can throw anything in the mix. That's the lesson I got from you.
Oh man, you nailed it. I mean, picture at the end of that video, the very last clip, all of a sudden that jar of jelly beans, it's not jelly beans anymore. What if it's just pennies and you don't even address it? You don't talk about anything. Do you think you're going to get comments?
Oh, that was so good.
Like, if you don't address these things and you leave it up to the people, it helps, it's fun. It adds just a whole new level of interaction and play and fun, just enjoying the content.
Now, the sad thing is we don't have pennies in Canada anymore, but other than that, but because it would have been a really good point driving it home, because it's about the money. But even if it wasn't a perfect world and went from jelly beans to chocolate or jelly beans to marbles or whatever, right? So yeah, you know what? I think your magic is, like, seriously, I'll tell you what to go spread your gospel throughout the world. I think you could do an amazing and unique perspective on props and pattern interrupts. And I don't think
that's a great idea.
I don't think anybody does it as well as you. Like, I kept watching videos over and over going, oh, And every time you see something different, that's part of it. And you get sucked into this loop and you're like, your points are good. It's so tight, so effective, but so visually interesting and distracting at the same time. And I think there is so much depth and bandwidth and almost science to your pattern interrupts that everybody else, we kind of have an idea what a pattern interrupt is, but we skim over it. And I think you have so much more knowledge on that than I have ever seen anyone display or be able to articulate.
I love that. That is such a good
Yeah.
idea. In the middle of you talking, I
Yeah.
took this out and I'm writing it down. I'm pretty sure that's going to be my next video. So thank you so much.
Well, I think you could teach a course in it because I understood it when I saw it and I couldn't figure it out. But the more you talk, the more I realized, oh, the only thing that's limiting us is our imagination. Like, you know what I mean? It could be anything in that jar, that it could cut to anything, right? So, you know, like you could go from holding that toilet brush to the next one holding ice cream. It could be anything you want, right? So
anything. Could even just
yeah.
switch hands and not even and call it, right?
Right. Again, see, don't overthink it. Don't process it. Don't try to make a big production out of it, Chris. Just, it could be whatever.
Flip your hat around, something.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. All right. Again, that could be one of your downloads, 101 pattern interrupts.
Hey, I like that too.
Yeah. I'm here to help, man. Dan,
good ideas today.
you have been a treat. Oh my gosh, we could turn you into a 6-part series. I'm just so like, I was like reaching out to, I don't think honestly, I have ever seen anybody's video that seeing your video that I jumped into action as quickly. Like usually I'll be like, oh, this is really good. Maybe because usually people are pursuing us to be on the show and it's wonderful and flattering. And very seldom do I reach out. But when I do, I still normally have sort of consumed more of your content. I was in, hello, here we are. I got to find this guy. I just wanted to talk to you, whether we had it on the podcast, and lovely that other people are listening, but I was like, no, I got to figure this out because it's just so refreshing, like fresh. It's just like a spring day after a long winter.
Thank you.
So
thank you so much. You made my day. It's not even, well, I guess it's a little afternoon, but yeah, that means the world. Thank you so much, guys.
No problem. Where can people find more of your brilliance? I'll tell you, you got to check out his video. So where should they go for that?
Yeah, so on TikTok and Instagram, I'm at danp.tv, just like it sounds. First name, Dan, last initial P, danp.tv. And then if you just search my name, Dan Perichino, there's like, 4 pages of random Google things from all of the shiny objects I've had over the decades, from my career, my Facebook, all the way back to my teenage police reports when I used to get in trouble.
No,
I'm joking, but you can find me at danp.tv and everywhere else from there.
Well, and we'll put all that in the show notes, everyone. All right, Dan, you have been awesome. Everyone else, we'll see you in the next episode.